Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski. For those who don't know, we're all about bringing science, adventure, exploration, and conservation into classrooms across North America and hopefully beyond. Very excited to be joined by our guest from the UK today, Chaz Powell. I'm going to give Chaz a little intro. So Chaz is an adventurer. He's an expedition leader, and he's set to become the first person to walk the entire 1,600-mile length of the Zambezi River in one go. So he's going to be setting out in August, probably take about 6 months through the hottest, driest months of the year, and he's walking solo, so unaided, and relying for help from people along the way on the river, so maybe places to crash. He started backpacking 12 years ago, and he's never really stopped, so he's been to over 30 countries. And the more traveling he's done, the more adventurous his life has become. So, Chaz, it's great to have you joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be joining you today.
All right, so I know today you're going to share a couple past adventures as well as the big adventure you have coming up in August.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to start now?
Absolutely. You can, if you want to start telling us about a few little kind of past adventures, then we'll talk about the big one coming up.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Well, my name is Chaz Powell. I'm from the UK. I've travelled, like Joe was saying, for 12 years now, and the more I've travelled, the more adventurous my life has become. I'm a qualified mountain leader, an expedition leader, and a bushcraft instructor. I'm currently working for Different Outlook Expeditions is one of the companies I work for, and this year I'll be leading an expedition in Zambia before my walk. I also work teaching bushcraft. I'm a bushcraft instructor. I teach people how to live outdoors and survive. I've been doing that for 2 years. Also, as well as that, I lead mountain expeditions as well in the UK. Yeah, I've been travelling for a long time now. 2004 is when I started travelling, and I've not really stopped. 2004, I went around the world. I worked in New Zealand for about a year. I travelled around around the world, and yeah. Since then, I've been working holidays in Australia. I've been around Southeast Asia, and I've been all across Africa. Lots of my trips are pretty extreme. I like to go off the beaten track quite a lot. The more I've travelled, and the more sort of off the beaten track I've gone. Yeah, sort of the trips I've always sort of tried to base my trips around wildlife and wildlife conservation, which is what I'm hugely passionate about, sort of thing. And yeah, the more I've travelled, the more extreme I've got. Towards the end of my travels in 2012, I was in Burma, and I had a few problems in Burma, and I got robbed and ended up with no money, stuck in Burma. That's one of my sort of situations I got in towards the end of my travels. I sort of decided I wanted to stop travelling and coming back to the UK with nothing. I decided I wanted to turn myself into a professional adventurer and explorer, as well as an expedition leader, so I could travel and get paid to travel. So I decided to come back to the UK in 2012, and I trained to become a mountain leader. So I lived in a van. I spent 2 years of my life just living in a van and training in the mountains every weekend, sort of wild camping, and sort of living off the land as much as possible. And during them 2 years, I got into quite extreme adventure, sort of long distance walking and different adventure-based challenges. Some of the sort of walks I've done have been quite big walks. Where I based myself in Snowdonia in the UK, I decided to walk the length of the national park, which is over 100 miles, but as well as that, I decided to do it in 7 days and summit the 40 highest mountains in that space of that 7 days. Apart from that, in the UK, I've walked the length of the longest river, which is the Severn. That was a bit of a practice walk for my upcoming Zambezi trek. Yeah, I've constantly done different challenges in the UK, and I decided, once I trained to become a mountain leader and an expedition leader, that then I would then lead in more remote areas of the world. So this year, I started my year off. I basically wanted a year of adventure this year. So in January, I decided I wanted to see the Northern Lights. It's always been a big sort of a dream of mine to see the Northern Lights. But I didn't just want to see the Northern Lights. I wanted to do it in an extreme way. So my aim was to get from the UK to the northernmost point of Europe on a £100 budget, which is in one of the most expensive countries in the world. It's a pretty hard task. So the aim was to hitchhike. I was camping in minus 30 degrees temperatures in a tent, and I was sort of walking in crazy sort of cold conditions. But I managed to get to the northernmost point, and I managed to see the Northern Lights most of the days. I don't know if you've got a picture there of the Northern Lights. Joe, have you got a picture?
Yeah, I'll share those for you from my end. You just tell me when they pop up. So here we go, switching over. All right, there's the first one.
Yeah, so that was us when we reached the northernmost point of Europe. That was called Nordkapp in Norway, and that was an expedition that took 12 days of hitchhiking and walking. And as we reached the northernmost point, you can see there that as we approached, the Northern Lights were there to greet us. We actually camped on the northernmost point, and we had to walk the last 35 kilometers in the dark, because at that time of year there was no sort of sunlight. Yeah, it was an amazing trip, that one, and definitely really good. Sort of appreciate the. And this is the moment here when I first saw the Northern Lights. We tried for the first week, but we didn't see any Northern Lights. But this is the moment I first captured them. We were camping outside. I think it was minus 20 that night, and we had to wait up till 3 o'clock in the morning to actually view the Northern Lights. And that was the first sort of moment we saw them. It was an amazing experience. Yeah, and that trip only took 12 days. Pardon?
Was it difficult to photograph, Chaz?
Yeah, I had a guy with me called Tim. He knew how to work the camera better than me, and so we managed to. It's probably not the best quality pictures, but we managed to capture the Northern Lights. Managed to get the settings right on the camera and capture the Northern Lights. But it was definitely not an easy sort of thing to photograph, to be honest. But next time I do it, I think I'll probably look into more of the technical equipment. And after that, February was another adventurous month. My aim in February was to walk the length of an island, but the island I wanted to walk the length of was actually the steepest island in the world. It's called the Palma. It's a tropical island in the Canary Islands, just off Africa, and it's only a relatively small island. It's about 40 kilometers long in length, 45 kilometers in length. Because it's essentially a giant volcano. It's one of the it goes up to about 2,500 meters in length, and yeah, that's me. That picture is me looking at the map, sort of figuring out my route. That was just when we first got to La Palma. That's me, very drinking my tea and very British, drinking my tea and looking at the map, figuring out which way we're going to go. That we very underestimated that island to quite a high level, actually, because we thought it was going to be pretty easy, but it was, as you can see that picture there of me on the slope walking along by the ice. That was how technical it got. We walked up along this ridge, and that was like a vertical drop with sheer ice. We were walking on sheer ice, and luckily we were walking in people's footsteps that already trod steps into the ice, so we wouldn't fall. But that was one of the most scary moments of my life, actually, that walk, when I was literally thinking I was going to fall and die at that point. But yeah. So yeah, the walk started off, we decided to go to the northernmost point, and from there we'd summit the volcano, we'd go through the cloud forest. That sort of where I'm drinking there is that inside a series of canal tunnels that run through the island, run through the volcano. And they can stretch to half a mile long, little caves that have like a small canal system running through them. And that's me there taking a drink while taking a bit of a break. That was like a hot, humid jungle, and it went from alpine forests We went from a hot, humid jungle to alpine forests, and then from alpine forests to snow-capped volcanoes. The pictures just below, that's me standing on near the summit, just below. That's in the morning when we woke up. Um, and the island was actually experiencing quite freak weather conditions at that point, for the time of year. So that was us. We just got up in the morning. There was a huge cloud inversion down in the valley, and that was what we were welcomed to, with the sunrise in the morning. That was a pretty cold and windy night. That's another one as we were just coming down from the summit, making our way to the ridge, looking back at the path we'd taken. As you can see, all the way down to the sort of sea level, it's just steep, rocky sort of hills. It was pretty tricky to get up there, to be honest. It was really tricky. Yeah, some amazing pictures. I actually had a photographer with me on that trip. He took some amazing photos. And the photo just to the right of that is when we were walking down towards the sea on the southern point. And that was, sorry, that's where I work, the bushcraft company. That one. But yeah, as we walked down, that's the one. As we walked down towards the ocean at the southernmost tip, it was just ash-laden paths and we were just walking in ash. And I had like a magnetic tripod, and every time I put the tripod down, it'd just be picking up all this magnetic ash, and I'd have to carry it all in my pockets. It was a bit of a crazy walk, but it was really, really sort of good, really good experience, to be honest. Yeah, and that took us 5 days. We were walking for probably 15 hours a day, walking up to 30 mile a day, up and down jagged cliffs. That was a pretty amazing experience, to be honest. And that's as we were walking towards the southern tip. There was the last volcano that erupted was 1997, and this is what it's left behind. It's left a huge sort of path of magma, so dried out dried out magma. So yeah, that was La Palma, and took us. That was February. That was the aim for February. The main thing I want to talk to you guys about is my upcoming adventure, which is the actual Zambezi River. This is a picture of the map of the river. It starts in northwestern Zambia, in a place called the Kalini Hills. From there, it sort of borders the Congo. Then it skirts into Angola for about 150 kilometers, 200 kilometers actually, sorry. And then it goes back into Zambia. Follows the river into Zambia to the border with Namibia, borders Botswana, and then it borders Zambia and Zimbabwe all the way into Mozambique, and it finishes in Mozambique around 1,600 miles. 1,600 miles, yeah, later. So that'll be a 6-month trek. The main aim of my trek is to sort of make an awareness and raise awareness to the sort of poaching that's happening along the river, the decline in the elephants and the rhinos, the specific sort of animals I'm talking about, I guess, and the fact that elephants have declined by 97% in the past century is just quite a scary sort of statistic, really. And yeah, I want to try and raise a huge awareness for them, try and raise as much money as possible for that. Yeah, I mean, the elephants are being killed around 100 a day at the moment, so it's potentially one of the most serious wildlife threats in the world. So yeah, the reason I'm doing it is also because of that. But actually, I've been out to Africa quite a lot. I've got a little boy. My son lives in Livingston, so that's the main reason I'm out in Zambia quite a lot. And I'm an expedition leader out in Zambia. So my son lives there, and I always wanted to do a wild sort of big walk that hasn't been done before. So my aim is to walk the Zambezi. So a world's first attempt as well. So if I do the whole river in one sort of motion, it's going to be classed as a world's first and a pretty big sort of technical walk. I've had quite a lot of support. I've got different sponsors. I'm sponsored by Craghoppers, which is a UK-based outdoor clothing manufacturer, and they have like Nosy Life insect repellent clothing that I'm going to be wearing to protect myself from mosquitoes. One of the main threats for myself and the people who live along the Zambezi River is malaria. The amount of mosquitoes there are sort of rife along the Zambezi, and people die from malaria every day along the Zambezi. So my main objective is to protect myself from malaria. Not my main objective, but one of the main things is to protect myself from malaria. I'll also be getting support from a company called Water to Go, and they supply water filtration systems. So that actually works. It actually eliminates 99.9% of any sort of contaminants, harmful contaminants in water. My aim is to drink the river water, to live with the locals as much as possible. So I'll be living and eating what they eat. I'll be eating local foods. I'll be sort of fishing for local fish, eating the local fruits and vegetables. I obviously will come across as I'm walking. I've been supported by a GPS tracking company called 060. So as I'm walking the Zambezi, everyone will be able to follow my walk. You'll be able to log on, and you'll be able to see that exactly where I am along the river. And hopefully, if there is any kind of trouble, I'll be able to get a pinged out grid reference, and people will be able to come and help me. The sort of animals I'm likely to encounter, a lot of snakes. The black mamba is one of the sort of most venomous snakes in the world. That's going to be one of the snakes I might come across. That could potentially kill me within less than a day if I get bit by one of them. There's going to be lions, there's going to be elephants, there's going to be hippos, crocodiles, rhinoceros, cheetahs, leopards. There's a lot of animals, a lot of wild animals along the river. But my main objective is to, raise an awareness for the decline in these animal species. And the fact that they are declining very rapidly is a worry, and I probably won't see as many as I'd think. I'm going to try and film the expedition. I'm going to use a GoPro, a handheld camera. I'm going to use various different sort of bits and pieces to try and film myself along the river. It's going to be a solo walk, so I'll be alone. There might be certain points where I will be joined by people, but the actual walk itself will be sort of on my own sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, people can follow me. People can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm going to be updating most of the days when I'm out there walking. So yeah, can't think of much else to say about it. I'll leave some room for questions, I think. But
all right, it's hard to talk about. I was going to say it's hard to talk about a big trip before you've done it, but it does sound like you're well prepared.
I mean, I prepared myself quite a lot, to the sort of the best I can, really. There's little things like my visa for Angola. I'm going to have to get a few weeks before I leave, because that will expire, after 2 months of actually getting the visa. And if I actually reach the border of Angola without a visa, I won't be able to get into Angola. So there's plenty of things that could hinder the trip. So I need to make sure everything's in place as much as possible, really. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump to some questions, because I'm sure the classrooms have questions about some of your trips before and just what you might be encountering on this journey coming up. So I'm going to introduce the classrooms really quickly. So we have grade 7 class from Calvin Park Public School in Kingston, Ontario, joining us today. We have Mrs. Howard's grade 6-7s from St. Teresa School in Callander, Ontario, so in Canada as well. Mr. Van Hatten and Mrs. Andriecki's grade 6s from St. Martin in Thunder Bay. Another school, grade 6s from the same school. Looks like it's 2 grade 6 French immersion classes in Thunder Bay. And then Mrs. Lasser's grade 5s are joining us from Enid, Oklahoma. So why don't we jump to Oklahoma? I'll put your microphone on. You can ask Chaz a couple questions.
What's your favorite trip that you've been on so far?
My favorite trip? That's a really difficult question. To be honest, that La Palma trip I did in February was probably one of the most memorable trips that stands out for me of late, because it was so vast. It was just an extreme trip, and it really does stand out. And it was an amazing experience. I've done so many trips now that it's always a really difficult question to ask. I've been to so many countries, and the people are the ones that normally make the trip so memorable and amazing. And there's some amazing people around the world that have done that for me. So yeah, but I think La Palma stands out.
All right, let's grab one more from Oklahoma.
Have any animals hurting you while you're going to travel?
Have they hurt me yet, or when I'm walking with?
When you're walking.
When I'm walking, I've not been hurt by any animals. Touch wood. I've not been hurt by any animals, but I'm always quite respectful of animals, and I always give them their own space. There's been times I've come across crocodiles. I've done walks along the Zambezi already training. I've come across crocodiles and even a hippo, and I just, you have to respect the animal and give it its space, and just hopefully it won't get intimidated and threatened by you, and it won't hurt you. But yeah, I haven't been lucky up to today, so I've not been attacked or anything.
All right, let's visit a classroom. Here we go, Mrs. Wowchuk's room. I'll turn your microphone on if you have a couple questions.
What has been your hardest expedition?
The hardest? It's a hard question again, because my hardest expedition I know is going to be the Zambezi. And most of the expeditions I've done up till now, they've been quite hard mentally, but they're not. I haven't had to push myself for longer than a couple of weeks, really. But the walk I did in the UK, actually, the 40 highest mountains in Snowdonia, was a really tough walk. I was walking for 5 days in the pouring rain, walking through swamps and bogs, and that was quite a horrible walk. That tested me quite a lot mentally. So even though there's all these extreme walks in the world, stuff close to home can be quite difficult sometimes. And I guess it's as hard as you push yourself, it's the more extreme it's going to be. And I pushed myself quite hard that week, so I'll put that as my hardest.
All right, let's grab one more question from Mrs. Wowchuk's group.
Didn't get that one.
How do you plan to protect yourself from malaria?
How am I going to protect myself, was that?
From malaria. From malaria.
How will I protect myself from malaria? Like I said before, the crag uppers shirts I wear, these are actually Nosy Life protected, which it eliminates sort of, well, it doesn't eliminate, but it stops. It's got like an anti-insect repellent inside it, so that'll actually hopefully stop some of it. Not all of it, obviously. I'm going to take anti-malarial tablets. I'll be on anti-malarials for the whole duration I'm there. I'll also be sleeping in a mosquito net at night, which is when the mosquitoes are at the most sort of, potential to bite me. I'll also be using insect repellent as well. So, there's going to be certain times I'm not going to be able to eliminate every mosquito from biting me, but I'm going to try my best to do it to the sort of highest level I can. There's a guy who walked the Zambezi before, and his name is David Lemon. He didn't do the whole river. He walked it in 2 sections, but he missed out Angola, so he didn't complete the whole river. But he got malaria 3 times while he walked it. So for me now, I've got to try and trying to not get malaria might be really tricky. There's a good possibility I will get malaria, so I'll have to make sure I carry a cure with me as well, which can, if I feel like I've got malaria, then I can cure myself along the river.
Okay, great questions. Let's visit Mr. Van Hatten's group. I'll turn your microphone on.
How are you going to deal with animals in your journey?
That's a good question. Like I was saying, I think the best thing you can do is just give them their space and give them respect. If you respect the animal and you're not getting inside its space, and hopefully it won't feel intimidated and it wouldn't attack me. The majority of the animals I will see will be inside a national park, and when I'm in a national park, I will have to have an armed guard with me and a guide. So during that time, hopefully, if I do see any animals like lions or hippos and things like that, elephants, there'll be an armed guard to protect me. But as far as when I'm on my own, if I come across an animal, I'm thinking of maybe give it its space, give it some distance. But then I'm also going to make an alarm, sort of a loud alarm sort of system. If something gets too close, maybe sort of trigger an alarm to make a loud sort of noise. And then at night time I'll be making fires, so hopefully that'll ward off the animals as well.
Okay, we'll grab one more question from that group in Thunder Bay.
If you couldn't raise awareness by walking the Zambezi River, how else could you do that?
What was the start of that question, sorry?
If you couldn't raise awareness by walking the Zambezi River, how else could you do that?
For raising awareness for the wildlife conservation. Is that what you mean?
She's wondering if you weren't walking the river, how else could you raise awareness?
I guess you could write about these issues, and you could sort of blog about things like that and let people know actually what's happening in the world. There's other little mini expeditions you can do to sort of raise money and awareness, but for me, because I'm quite an extreme sort of person, I wanted to give it a wow factor, and walking something like the Zambezi was close to home for me, because the actual Zambezi is where a lot of these issues are actually taking place. I'm not sure. I guess there's plenty of ways you can do to raise awareness. I mean, you can volunteer or you can donate towards different charities. The charity I'm raising money for is the David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. It's a UK charity, and if you sort of log on to their website, there's plenty of ways you can donate and things like that. But yeah, people do different challenges every day to raise awareness. You can do like any sort of shorter walks and things like that, or yeah, there's plenty of ways. Hope that answers it.
All right, great question. And I think that's a really good point, that sometimes simple ways work. Just telling other people about what's going on and then passing the word on, that can be a really good way to spread through word of mouth. So Mrs. Howard's class, your microphone's on if you have some questions.
What are the advantages and disadvantages to living near the Zambezi River?
The advantages of living near the river. Well, I guess it's. I'm not 100% sure of the advantages of. I guess when you're actually from Zambia or from somewhere near the Zambezi, I guess during the hottest months you're always guaranteed to have some kind of water source. For the local people. For me, I'm following the river because it's an adventure, and it's exploring a region that's not really been explored before. The people who actually live along the river, they have quite a lot of serious issues, like the closer you are to a river, the more mosquitoes, the more malaria risk there is, the more wild animals there is as well. A lot of the river floods in sort of wet season. The Zambezi has a huge floodplain called the Baratsi floodplain. That floods for a good 6 months of the year, so that's a huge disadvantage for the people that actually live along the river. The reason I'm doing it at the time I'm doing it is to avoid them floodplains. That's another thing, yeah, to avoid the floodplains and hopefully get safe passage along the river. But yeah, there's quite a lot of potential dangers that you could face along the river, and you know, most towns, most cities you'll meet are normally along some kind of water source like a river, so that that can feed a village. There can be fish, there can be water. People can wash in the river. So there's plenty of advantages and plenty of disadvantages. Yeah.
All right, great question. We'll steal one more question from Mrs. Howard's group if they have it.
Where are you going to sleep?
I don't think he froze.
No, I think he froze.
Say
Say it louder, too. Where are you going to sleep?
Did you hear that, Chaz? Where are you going to sleep? Still there, Chaz? All right, so it looks like his internet may have froze on his end. So we'll give him a second to see if he's able to log out and log back in. Yep, he just went out, so he's trying to log back in right now. We'll just give him a second. But, oh, here he is already. That was quick. Chaz, how are you?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm all good. How are you?
We're all in school, so we know that the internet sometimes just doesn't cooperate when you need it.
Oh, cool.
The question that was asked just before it blinked was, where are you going to sleep along the way?
I'm going to carry a tent. I'm going to carry a sleeping bag. I'm going to carry a roll mat. When I'm along the river, especially if I'm in a really remote section of the river, I'll be sleeping in my tent. I'll be sleeping along the river or near the river, sort of in the wild. I'll be trying to rely on as many local people as possible, local businesses, local hotels, sort of local villages, and I'll be carrying letters of permission with me to walk through their land from different organisations in Zambia. That won't always guarantee me sort of passage through someone's land, but it might help to sort of let people more accommodate me, to let me sleep on their land and to maybe give me a bed for the night. But otherwise, I'll be camping. I'll be camping every night and sort of cooking my own food on fires and things like that. Yeah.
All right, and our last classroom joining us from Kingston, Ontario. I know they've kind of dropped in and out a little bit. They might be having a little bit of tech problems, but Mr. Candela's group, can you hear us? All right, so I think they can probably hear us, but we just can't hear them. So if you can hear us, group from Kingston, there's a little blue chat bar icon. Oh, here comes someone. Yeah, we just can't hear you guys. So if you look on the left of your screen, there's a little toolbar with a blue chat icon at the top. And if you click on that, you can actually type your question.
Or someone's today. Wait, pardon?
Sorry, can you try that again? You're breaking in and out.
Oh, are there any quotes or sayings that you would tell young people to inspire them?
Quotes?
Who want to do something so what you're doing?
You mean like famous quotes or quotes of my own?
Yeah, maybe either one. If you have something that kind of motivates you, pushes you to kind of do some of the things you do.
I guess for me, I've always been a bit of an outsider as such. I've always been a bit, not necessarily followed society's path, and for me, I've always thought life's too short to sort of do things that everyone else is doing, if you know what I mean. There's a sort of path in life that people seem to follow. People seem to think you have to get, you have to have a family, you have to have a mortgage and things like that, and I've always just sort of made my own path in life and made my own rules, which is, I don't know if that's an inspiring thing or not, but there's not many people actually that follow their own paths. Sometimes people think that you've got to follow this certain set path in life, where you've got to, you've got to do everything that your family, your parents did and your grandparents did. But I always say to people that if you've got a dream, if there's anything you want to do in life, just do it, because you'll get to an age and it's going to be too late, and you'll always look back at the things you should have done. Yeah.
All right.
That helps.
That's an absolutely great point, because there are many paths to follow, and not one path is right for some, and might not be the same for the other person. And I think that's another really good point, that there's something you want to do, you just have to do it, because I think people talk themselves out of doing things a lot before they actually get started. All right, let's try and steal one more from Mr. Candella's classroom, if you have one.
There's a...
Do you guys have one more question?
Does hiking a good feeling, or do you enjoy the scenery, exercise, or are there any other reasons you do it?
Hiking, was that?
Here. I asked, does hiking give you a good feeling? Do you enjoy the scenery, the exercise, or are there any other reasons you do it?
All of them reasons. It does give you a really good feeling. When I'm hiking, I sort of feel like I'm away from all the cluster in life, if you can understand that. I'll sort of escape all the sort of negativity that's at home. If I'm having problems at home, I can get out, I can go walking for a few days, and then I don't think about any of that stuff, and I can clear my mind when I'm walking. And the exercise is always a bonus. You're getting out, you're exercising, and you're seeing amazing scenery, and you've got fresh air. But for me, it's some people don't like it, but every time I've sort of introduced people to hiking, they've always come back. And it sort of changes you in a way. I always think it's a really inspiring sort of thing to do, just to get out there and sort of experience a sort of wild place for a while, and then come back. And if you've had a sort of hard time of it, you've always got a story to tell after. I've never had a bad hike, to be honest. Even in bad weather, I've always had an amazing time hiking. And I think the exercise and the scenery is just a bonus. I hope that helps.
All right. So Chaz, maybe one more question before we wrap for today. I was wondering,
okay,
with walking through so many countries, and the areas might be pretty remote, do you have to check in as you get into each country?
What do you mean, with a contact outside of the country, or just?
Yeah, or some kind of customs, or do your papers give you enough permission to walk through?
No, I'll have to go through several borders. In Zambia, I'll be getting a visa, which probably lasts only a few months. Then I'll be going to Angola. Angola is probably one of the trickiest sections of the walk. I'll have to get a separate visa for Angola, and then when I come back into Zambia, I'll have to get another visa. But the aim is to stay in just 3 countries: Zambia, Angola, and Mozambique. And I'll have to just get, the Mozambique visa I will get on arrival at the border, hopefully, and my Angola visa I'll have to get before, and my Zambia visa I'm going to get before. But yeah, there's several sort of regions I'll walk through as well, where there'll be different tribes, and I'll have to seek permission from the chiefs of the local tribes to maybe walk through on their land, walk along the river. But yeah, as far as going through countries, I'll always sort of, I've got an online tracking map which I can update every time I can. It might not be every day, but every few days I'll try and update to people to let them know which part of the world I'm in, which part of the river I'm on. So there'll always be, hopefully there'll always be ways that people know where I am, and I've checked in as such. Yeah.
Okay, well, Chaz, thanks so much for letting us have a little peek into your adventurous lifestyle, and for kind of bringing us up to speed on the adventure that's coming up. What I can do on my end is I will share your Facebook page and other ways to get in contact with the classroom teachers today, so that students can follow along starting in August, and then be able to follow along through the first several months of the school year as well. So I'm hoping we can figure out a way to do connections sometime along the walk, and definitely one after you finish your adventure, because I have a feeling you'll have a lot of stories to tell from your river quest.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
Definitely
So
keep you updated.
All right. Thanks, Chaz. Last thing we do is turn the microphones on and just give the classrooms a chance to say goodbye and thank you, and then we'll sign off for today.
Okay.
So the microphones are on. Thanks everybody for tuning in today, and we're signing off.